Hello and welcome back. Today we have a good one. I feel like we've done this one before, but this is going to be a big old pork butt. This is going to be really delicious. A pork butt is always phenomenal to put in the smoker. So I'll show you how we prepare it, as simple as it is, and how we make sure that it's going to be unbelievably tender every single time. First thing we're going to do is get some pellets going. I just started up the grill. It's on its smoke setting, so probably about 180 degrees or so. I'm using a blend of hickory and oak, which I think has a good flavor. Look, I'm from Texas. I like mesquite and hickory and oak and some of those good Texas sort of barbecue flavors. I know pork butt, we can make an argument on where it begins, but I like my Texas flavor on it. And you'll like this too. But I'm going to season it kind of uniquely today. We're going to give it a little bit of heat, and I'll show you what we're going to use here in just a second. Let's talk about what we need to prepare this. The first thing you need is a good old bone-in pork butt. Don't worry, it's not really the butt, it's actually the shoulder, so you'll see it called pork shoulder, Boston butt. There's a lot of different names for it. I like to get a bone in, and I like to do anywhere from 6 to 12 pounds. This one actually happens to be a good size one. This is right at 10.5 pounds. And again, you want the one with the bone in. I can feel that bone right over here. When we get ready to finish this, that's always my good test. Will the bone come out clean? And to me, that means that it's unbelievably tender inside. It's usually a pretty good test of doneness. We're gonna season this up with a couple of different things. And by the way, you can use whatever seasoning you want. Today, we're actually gonna use a little bit of this whole lot of bull. It's a chicken and pork rub. We're gonna top it with that. But what we're gonna do the majority of this on, I like this flavor. I like a little heat, I like a little tropical. This stuff is called Saison Tropical. It's basically like a seasoned salt. It's used pretty heavily down in the Caribbean islands, and it's often used on chicken, but I like it on pork as well. And then for some heat, we're gonna go ahead and use a little bit of this Slap Your Mama seasoning. This is salt, black and red pepper, and a little bit of garlic. It's a really good flavor, and I like buying this. It's pretty inexpensive at the store, and it just saves having to mix it all up. Though, I will tell you, you save money mixing your own, especially if you go and you buy those big things of seasoning. You know, you hear, if you watch Barbecue Pit Boys, you hear them talk about SPG, salt, pepper, garlic. Even mixtures of salt, pepper, garlic is a phenomenal rub, especially for beef. For pork, I often like to add just a little bit of brown sugar into them. I'm not going to do that today, but brown sugar in a mix on pork is really, really good, especially if you're going to wrap it to get it really tender. That it just sort of caramelizes and sweetens that whole outside. We are going to get one of these little disposable trays for two reasons. I like to actually cook mine until I get an internal temperature a little over 165 to 170. Then I like to put it inside of one of these and wrap it up loosely, like tent it with foil. Add a little bit of liquid in it, and then have it sort of braise and stay really tender. I also put this down on the bottom rack of the grill so that the drippings from the pork butt land in here. That's going to be used for flavor later. It also saves us from doing quite a bit of cleaning on the grill. So let's just move that aside for a little bit. People always ask, so how long do you cook it? How long do you cook it? Don't know. Temperature versus time every single time. So we'll be using probes to make sure we know the internal temperature of this. And what we want to do is we want to start the cook until we get it up to about 165 degrees, unwrapped on the top rack. And I'm going to do it on the top rack because I don't want to get the bottom right below the firebox too heated up. If you have an offset and you can put this offset of the heat, by all means do that. On these small PitBoss like I have, it's hard to get this to one side completely or the other. That's why I put the pan down below it and I put it on the top shelf. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this guy flipped over. We're going to do the bottom side first. And I'm going to use my paper towels here. And I'm going to have to wash my spice containers because I already know I just used the last of the paper towels there and I don't want to go inside and get more right now. Okay, we're going to start with a little bit of our tropical seasoning. And I am just going to sprinkle this stuff on here pretty liberally on this fat cap. And I like to pat it down just a little bit. Now remember, this is a big piece of meat, so don't think, oh my gosh, that's too much on one side. We're gonna pull this pork later, which means that flavor is gonna be incorporated into all of the sort of pulled pork. You don't have to worry about just eating a little bit of that on the outside where it's gonna be too strong a flavor, and quite frankly, it's not. So don't worry about that if you had any sort of reservations about it. I did not do a binder on this, and the reason I didn't is because I just opened the wrapper. It's still pretty moist. You don't want it really wet, right? We're not trying to make a paste out of this, but we want it to be at least moist enough for this all to stick to. All right, we now go on with some Slap Your Mamas, salt, pepper, garlic. All right, good amount of that on there. And we got all 4 sides, top and bottom. Now the last thing we're gonna do is our whole lot of bull seasoning. Now I'm gonna go a little heavier on the top here, and I'm just gonna pat it down. What you'll notice here is this will start to glisten in a few moments. Good, all right, I'm gonna go brush off my hands here, first in the grass, get the heavy stuff, so I can at least touch the stop button on the camera. Then I'm gonna come wash my hand. We'll let this sit for 5 or 6 minutes, and you'll see what I mean about that glistening. Our grill's sitting right at about 175 to 185 degrees, so that's good. We're rolling smoke right here, and this has been now sitting for about 8 or 10 minutes, and it's got this beautiful glistened look on it. That's because the salt in all of those different rubs has beginning to extract some of the moisture from the meat, and it's kind of created this, I don't know if I want to use the word glaze, but paste. Let's call it a paste. I'll zoom in, I'll show you what that looks like before we get this put on the grill. Now you can kind of see what I mean here. Take a look at how that's just glistening like that. That's exactly what we're wanting to see. Now I'm gonna cook this fat side down. So this is the meat side here. Remember, I put a little bit of the extra brown sugar rub up here, and then we'll have the fat cap on the bottom. That's what'll end up dripping down into the pan. All right, we're gonna put our drip pan right down below that, as I mentioned, and then we're gonna put our pork butt right up on top. Ooh. Just fits in there. Oh man, I touched the top a little bit. That's all right. Yes, that's hot. All right, that's gonna be good. We're gonna let that drip right down in there as we go. So with the lid closed, all we're gonna do now is we're gonna cook this until we get up to about 165 degrees internal temperature. Now, if you have a PitBoss, it's great to go ahead and put a meat probe right into that and hook it up to your display. Sadly, my display is about worn out, so I will tell you, if you get one of these, it seems like a little over 2 years, and the display begins to fade. Now, it's a bit of a cloudy day. I could probably read it, but if the sun's shining, it's almost impossible to read. Instead, I've done enough of these that I probably know I'll come start checking it in about 3 hours or so, and I'll go ahead and use my pin thermometer, and I'll just sort of check it. What we want to do is we want to get to a little above 165. What's kind of interesting, briskets do this and a pork butt does it. You put it in at a low smoke setting, let's say 180 to 200 degrees. By the way, you could do this as high as 250, but we've got all day. I like it low and slow. So what happens is the temperature begins to rise in the meat, and it gets to somewhere in the high 150s, 160s, somewhere in that range, and it begins to stall. So what you see is you see the temperature sort of steadily climbing, right, as it goes, and then all of a sudden it gets to the stage, and for like an hour it stays almost the same temperature. Once it comes out of that stall and it begins to rise again, and that's usually when it's in the high 160s, above about 165, that's when you know it's starting to rise again. And after the stall is when I like to wrap mine, right? If you were doing a brisket, I like to do what they call the Texas crutch, wrap it in either butcher paper or foil. For this, I'm just gonna put it in that little pan, and we're gonna wrap that and put a little liquid in it so it gets nice and moist. And then we cook it until it's about 205 to 208 degrees internal temperature. We go to that because at that stage, the fat has broken down into this delicious sort of meat jelly texture. And as you pull the pork, that just adds to all of that flavor. And that happens a little bit above 200 degrees, somewhere around 205. So I like to go 205 to 208, and that's usually when that's completely broken down. So I'll see you guys back here in a few hours. I don't know exactly what it'll be. I'll check it probably every hour just to make sure nothing's going wrong with it. Maybe even rotate it at one point in time, just so you end up with, if you have a hotter spot in the grill, you're sort of, it's like rotating your tires on your car, If you have an offset smoker, right, so you have the firebox on one side and the pit where you cook the meat in another, you definitely want to rotate it about every hour or so, because remember, the fire's coming from one side, so it's going to be hotter on the firebox side than the other side. Because our heat source is directly below ours, we don't necessarily have that same problem. All right, we'll see you guys back here in about 3 hours or so. I'll tell you how long it'll be once we come back to it. Well, hey, I'm back. And I know for you it was just like that long. But for me, it's been about 4 hours, almost 4.5 at this stage. So we're gonna open it up, we're gonna check the internal temperature and see how this thing looks. We'll show it to you up close. All right. Looking pretty good though, I gotta tell you, I might have to turn the temperature up. I don't know what this is gonna be inside here. Does not feel like it's even close. We're at 118 degrees, wow. 125 over there, so. Now remember what I said, it's always about temperature and not so much time. So this will not be for dinner tonight. This is definitely going to be for tomorrow, because at this pace, it's 4:15. I suspect we're going to go another 2 hours at least before we get to that stall temperature, maybe 2.5. And then I'm going to want to do it for several more hours after that covered. So we're definitely going to be in for the long haul. I started this one a little late today. See you back in a few hours. But again, to you, it'll feel like that. As you can see, it's starting to get dark. I love the blue lights on the boat, but let me go ahead and show you this butt. This is probably just about to temperature. We're going to take it out, put it in our pan, wrap it, add some liquid to it, which I'll show you in a little bit more detail here in a second. But this is probably going to be the last time tonight where there's enough light for me to even film. At 8:30 p.m. right now, this will probably go for at least another 2 to 3 hours, so it's going to be a bit of a late night. 160 here, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and put it in. It's starting to feel pretty tender. Great. I'm gonna put that right here, and I'm gonna try to get this and pick it up, put it right in there. But man, is it just about hitting this this top here.
I'll save you trying to see in the dark and really just wrap this over with foil by tenting it over the top and adding about a 1/2 inch or so of apple juice in the bottom of the pan.
Well, as I mentioned, it's about dark out here, so it is 8:45 right now. We just wrapped that whole thing up. This is probably going to need 2 to 3 more hours. I've got it at 250 degrees, and we're only sitting at about 159 to 160. I wrapped it a little bit earlier than I normally would, but I'm doing that just because of the darkness and hoping to get that little bit on video. I think it'll be okay. So, got my gloves, my Thermapen. I'm going to go carry all these inside. I probably won't film the very last part of this, but I will film the tearing it up and showing how easy that bone comes right out of there. We'll see you all either late tonight inside with a light on or tomorrow morning out here. And I hope it doesn't rain tonight because I've got the grill kind of pushed a little bit under the eave of the house, but not completely. All right, well, again, it's going to be like that for you, but sweet dreams for me. Well, the coffee indicates good morning. So this did finish last night at about 11:20 to 11:30 p.m. I'll show you a little video real quick. I did take it inside the house and I put it on the stove top, opened it up, and removed that bone just clean as can be. So I'll show you that video. Forgive the lighting. I was in bed already, so I wasn't about to come out here and try and get lighting set up and everything else. But I put this right in the microwave with just a light on. It keeps it nice and warm. So let me show you what this looks like, and we'll start shredding this guy up. Let me zoom in and show you what this looks like. I will say, when you pull pork, you typically want to do a 30-minute rest after it's done cooking. I'm sure this top side's going to feel a little tough, just given that it's sitting here. But as soon as we start tearing it up, it'll be tender inside for sure. Look how pretty she looks, and you can see this little section that looks a little bit torn up right there. That's where the bones slid out just so easily. Look at that. And that apple juice and all the drippings from the pork right in that pan.
Over here. Yeah, right here. Hey, do me a favor. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like it, subscribe to the channel and click on that little bell notification so you get notified of new videos. Thanks.
And this is, I mean, I grab these little barbecue pull deals and look at how tender that is. I mean, it's just, and just so you don't think that's just those doing it, I mean, it's just fall apart tender. Look at that. What's so great about pulled pork is it makes quite a bit. Like, it's amazing how much of this there'll be, and just how versatile it is. Like, this will sit in the fridge for a week, and it will be meals for, you know, the base of a meal for a week at least. Let me show you this because you can just see the smoke ring here. Let me get the camera zoomed into that. Check out that smoke ring. You can see the lighter colored meat right here. See that? See the lighter colored pork there, and then you see this nice pink ring and red right along there. You can see it here on this piece as well. This is a little drier where it was above the liquid, but brownish, right? You kind of see this brownish pork color, and then right up here you can start to see where that smoke has really penetrated that well. Just amazing. Even, let's see if you can see it on some of these here. I mean, you can really see it right here. Look at that smoke ring right there. And if we just dig down a little bit below that, you start to see the regular colored pork below it. I gotta try another piece. Bon appetit. Man. This is with nothing else done to it, right? No barbecue sauce, no slaw, no additional sauce right now. It's just the rub that we put on it and a little bit of those drippings and a little bit of apple juice, some kind of braising liquid. I mean, yeah, I don't even know what to say. Well, there you have it. Smoked pork butt. It really is easy. I won't say easy. It's hard to mess it up if you just follow those simple steps. And talk about impressing your friends and family, man. That is the way to go. It was probably the first thing I made when I started smoking meats that was like, that is phenomenal. And I like baby back ribs and all the others, but man, a flavorful pork butt is just too good. I know we've done some of these videos before. They just never disappoint. They never disappoint. So listen, thank you everybody for watching. I really do appreciate it. Safe and happy grilling until next time. And it's been kind of fun. You know, we've been doing the grilling videos, and lately I started doing some more work out on the sailboat and doing some of that. That's been a lot of fun. You know, a couple of years ago when we were in the middle of our refit, I was going to the boat every single day and doing work every day. And I would compile any footage into a sort of a weekly episode that chronicled the refit. If you're interested in that stuff, there's well over 55 or 58 videos of just that weekly sort of refit, from bringing it to the yard to getting it back out of the yard, and we're talking some major stuff we did. It was a lot of fun, and I started sanding again and revarnishing some of the wood that needed to be upkept, and it's been kind of fun doing some of that work again. So anyway, bye y'all. I will see you next week.